Before we crack open tonight's cursed can of content, I just want to say a big thank you to all our subscribers, and an extra sinister shout out to the loyal members of the Sinister Elite. You legends help keep the darkness alive. If you're enjoying the stories and want to take it a step further, hit that like button, make sure you're subscribed, and consider joining the Sinister Elite by clicking that join button below. Members get access to creepy custom emojis and exclusive Sinister Elite badges that level up the longer you survive with us. It's like loyalty, but spookier. All right, lights off, headphones in, and let's summon something we'll all regret. My first night at Suds and Shine felt like taking a lifeguard job at a wave pool that occasionally serves sharks. It's not the busiest car wash in town, but it's the only one on our stretch of highway that stays open 24/7. Neon soap lights, discount Tuesdays, and a big mural of a winking bubble with eyelashes. Classy stuff. The place hums even when no cars are around. The conveyor's low electric purr, the rinse bars clicking like knuckles, the dryer turbines sighing themselves to sleep and waking in little coughing fits. The whole building smells like citrus cleaner and hot pennies. My manager, Val, met me in the break room, a closet with a coffee maker that rattled like a shaken spray can and a microwave that showed the wrong time in 4 different fonts. She's short, sharp, and has a haircut that says she once fought a hurricane and came away with a coupon book. She handed me a navy polo, a name tag that said TREY, and a laminated sheet of emergency procedures. Electrical fire? She quizzed, pointing at a line. Kill main power, grab the extinguisher, don't be a hero, I said. Soap spill? Cones, squeegee, mop, warn customers the floor's slicker than a preacher's hair. She grunted approval, then tapped a separate page pinned to the corkboard with a single rusty thumbtack. The page was newer than the others, printed clean in bold type, but someone had gone over a single sentence with a black marker so many times the letters looked swollen. Shop rule number 1. Once the brushes start moving, do not look in the rearview mirror. I blinked. Is this a prank? It's the only rule that matters, Val said, dead serious. You can forget the upcharge pitch for ceramic shine. You can botch a receipt. You can even let someone drive off with our vacuum hose again. But if you're on the tunnel floor or in a car, once those brushes start, you do not look up. Why? You like sleeping? She asked. You like keeping whatever's rattling around behind your eyes where it belongs? That's a weird way to say, because ghosts, I said. Val didn't smile. Do we have an understanding? We do, I said, because I needed the paycheck badly enough to agree to all sorts of nonsense. Plus, I've done worse jobs. I once worked a midnight shift at a warehouse where the rats had seniority. She gave me a quick tour. Prep bay where we spray pre-soak and bug remover. Control panel with big red stop buttons that begged to be pressed. The tunnel itself, an aluminum rib cage stretching 50 feet, draped in curtains of blue and red foam fingers, spinning brushes like sea mines, and that final gauntlet of dryer cannons that made your bones vibrate. Outside, the self-serve vacuums sat like metal mushrooms. A single streetlight flickered by the entrance, and the highway beyond rolled on like an indifferent snake. My coworker tonight was a kid named Leo, who looked like he'd failed an audition to be a skateboard in human form. You knew? He asked, peeling a sticker off a bottle of tire shine with surgical focus. Yeah, Trey, I said. The mirror rule? He made a slicing motion across his throat. Don't joke about it. So it's real? Leo shrugged, eyes drifting toward the tunnel's belly. Depends what you think real means. I've seen enough to keep my head down, he said. Also, if you hear your name while a car is in there, it wasn't me. Good pep talk, I said. The first few hours went how you'd expect. A soccer mom in a CRV lined with fossilized Cheerios, an Uber driver doing his 4th wash of the week, a guy in a jacked-up truck who asked if the brushes would mess up his mat wrap, and then tipped me in a crumpled energy drink coupon. I got the rhythm, guide the car onto the conveyor with the handheld light, shout, neutral, hands off the wheel, foot off the brake, like a preacher at a very specific revival, and jog along the driver's side with a sprayer to hit the trouble spots. Once the car's nose met the first brush's bristles, it was on rails. The world turned to foam and light, and the muffled heartbeat of machines. Around 2:17 a.m., the kind of time that feels made up, a sedan rolled in alone. No one at the wheel. At least that's what I thought. The windshield was stained with a film of grime on the inside, like someone had been chain-smoking in a rainstorm. The headlights were on, steady and too bright, bleaching Leo's face to chalk when he stepped out to wave it forward. "Company car?" I asked. "No plate," Leo said, as it idled perfectly onto the belt. The engine sounded wrong too, like an old cassette rewinding. "Neutral. Hands. I hesitated, then just did my job, because bills exist whether or not there's a driver. I rapped the roof out of habit. No response. The car slid under the first arch. Pre-soak hissed. Blue foam slumped down and kissed the glass. Val stepped out from the control panel, brows knotted. She didn't say anything. She just watched, like a surgeon at a fishbowl. The brushes woke. You don't realize how alive those things are until you feel them kick. The side spinners whipped up and slammed into the panels in rhythmic thuds. The top brush lowered and beat its wet drums on the roof. The tunnel lit itself in a pulsing carnival of red, then blue, then white. Soap ran in veins, and someone somewhere had chosen scents that tried very hard to be cheerful. Cherry, orange creamsicle, midnight breeze. I tasted metal. A whisper feathered my ear. Trey. I looked at Leo. He was looking at me. His lips didn't move. Trey. The whisper came again, stronger, threaded with water. My name sounded like it had been dragged across gravel and dipped in honey. The hair along my arm stood up so straight it ached. I kept my eyes forward on the rubber matting on the silver rails, on the little green LEDs that said the belt's speed. I could have looked at anything, my shoelace, the gum scar on the concrete, Val's boot. But my gaze ached to climb. My neck made the tiniest start of a tilt. It would be easy. The mirror was right there, mounted on the sedan's windshield, a small rectangle of night. A promise of backstage access. "Don't," Val said, voice low and iron. "Breathe. Count the brush hits if you need to. Wump, 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 wump." The rhythm was almost calming. Almost. The whisper turned into a giggle. Not a kid's giggle, but the tired laughter of someone who knows a secret about you they shouldn't. The foamed-over windows started to silhouette things moving inside the sedan, shadows where no one had sat. The passenger side bulged inward like someone pressed a palm against it from the other side. Then 5 palms. Then 10. I shut my eyes and counted. 20 brush hits. 27. 34. My lungs forgot how to measure time. When I opened my eyes again, the sedan had reached the rinse bars and a sheet of clean water sluiced away the soap. For the barest instant before the final curtain, I saw a face inside the car, up close to the glass, mouth moving too fast, like a flipped-through flipbook. The dryer cannons roared. The tunnel air turned hot and bone-dry. The sedan coasted out into the night without a squeak of wipers. No driver, no plates, just those 2 bright headlights tilting toward the highway. It didn't stop. It didn't slow. It merged into the empty. Leo swallowed. "You okay?" I nodded, which felt like lying. Val exhaled. "You did good," she said. "You followed the rule." I stared at the tunnel's wet mouth, at the foam retreating in little nervous rivers. "What happens if you don't?" Val's eyes flicked to the break room door. "You get promoted to the kind of employee we don't talk about," she said. "Take 5, Trey. Coffee's fresh. If you see anything in the glass that looks like your reflection, waving, it isn't." On my way to the break room, I passed the supply rack. The mops leaned shoulder to shoulder like soldiers after parade. One was brand new, still wrapped in plastic, a stupid heroic name printed on the handle like a gag gift. Moptimus Prime. I snorted despite myself. "Don't let the names fool you," Leo said from behind me. "Around here, everything's got a job." The coffee tasted burned and sweet. the way fear does when it pretends it's sugar. I stood there under the buzzing fluorescent and read the rule again, tracing the marker-bloated words with my eyes until they seemed to breathe. Do not look in the rear-view mirror. Which was, of course, exactly what I wanted to do. By the end of my first shift, the rule had rooted itself in my head like gum and hair. I couldn't shake it. Every time a car rolled in, my eyes itched toward the rear view, like it was magnetized and my skull was metal. I made it through without peeking, but the whisper of my name followed me all the way home. Even in bed, staring at my ceiling fan, wobbling like it was about to saw itself free, I kept picturing that sedan's fogged windows and those palms pressing outward. Sleep didn't stick. I'd drift off, then bolt upright to the sound of brushes slamming against sheet metal. Except I was in my apartment, not the tunnel. Once, I swore I heard dryer cannons blast through the vents. When my alarm finally chirped, I felt like I'd been up 3 nights straight. Back at Suds and Shine, Leo handed me a Red Bull like it was communion. First night gets you, he said. You'll either quit, or you'll figure out how to ignore it. Quit sounds great, I said, but my landlord's into rent, not excuses. He smirked. Then you'll learn. That night, a black Escalade pulled in around 1 a.m. Tinted windows, gleaming chrome. The kind of ride you imagine mobsters using as Uber XL. The driver didn't roll the window down when I shouted instructions. I just saw a pale hand tap twice against the glass like a signal. The belt grabbed the tires, the brushes started, and my skin went cold. The tunnel looked alive again. Soap dripping in rivers, lights pulsing red and blue like a rave thrown in a morgue. Trey. The whisper again. Closer. Trey. This time it came from inside the Escalade. I froze mid-step. I could have walked away, gone back to the control panel, whistled a dumb tune, but my eyes climbed, my neck tilted, and before I could stop myself, I glanced at the mirror. The rear view wasn't reflecting the tunnel. It wasn't reflecting me. It showed a room I'd never seen before. Walls slick with dripping water, rows of car mirrors hanging from hooks like butchered meat. Faces pressed out from inside them, screaming without sound. In the center stood a figure, soaked, black-eyed, grinning too wide. It raised a finger and wagged it at me like a teacher scolding a naughty kid. Then it pressed its palm flat against the glass. My breath caught, because I felt its touch against my cheek, cold and wet. Hey! Val's voice cracked like a whip. She stormed over, slammed the emergency stop, and hit the conveyor kill switch. The brushes froze mid-swipe. The Escalade sat there, dripping soap and silence. What did you do? She hissed. I just... You looked. My stomach dropped. For like half a second. That's all it takes, she said, shaking her head. You don't get it. You don't invite them unless you look. And now they know you. The Escalade rolled itself out of the tunnel without the belt moving. Its headlights flared white-hot like magnesium burning before vanishing down the highway. No driver. I stood there shaking, soap dripping onto my shoes. What? What was in there? Val didn't answer. She grabbed a rag, wiped her hands, and looked me square in the eyes. You've got 2 choices, Trey. Learn to ignore them or don't come back. I almost said, maybe I won't. But the rent monster is scarier than any mirror ghost. So instead I muttered, I'll figure it out. She leaned close, her voice low and raw. Then listen good. Don't test the rule again. Next time it won't stop at a touch. When she walked away, I glanced back at the tunnel. The brushes twitched like they weren't done yet. And in the puddle at my feet, I saw my reflection blink a half-second later than I did. By my 3rd night, I started to understand why Leo always looked like he'd just finished crying but hadn't decided why. Suds and Shine wasn't just haunted, it was hungry. The walls hummed like a giant throat, the drains gurgled like something sipping from a straw, and the brushes didn't just clean, they pawed. Val's warning rattled in my head. Next time it won't stop at a touch. But saying don't look only made me want to look harder. That Escalade's mirror room was seared into my brain. Rows of faces screaming in silence. What was that place? A waiting room? A prison? A showroom for lost souls? Leo must have seen me zoning out because he tossed me a squeegee like a coach hurling a football. "Don't drift," he said. "That's when they start poking holes in you." "Poking holes?" I asked. "Yeah, like little gaps in your head. They'll whisper through them until you're Swiss cheese." The guy had a way with words. That night's shift was weird even before the bad stuff started. We had 3 cars in a row come through with their radios blasting the same song. Not a current hit. Not even a classic rock jam. It was some old doo-wop tune with lyrics about seeing you in the glass tonight. Each driver had the same blank smile and didn't acknowledge me. "Coincidence?" I asked. Leo paled. "That's the soundtrack." They're warming up. I didn't like the way he said they. Around 2:45, a rusted-out minivan rolled in. The paint was the color of dried blood, patches of Bondo on the sides like skin grafts. Only one headlight worked. The driver? Couldn't see his face. Just a silhouette slouched low. As the van crawled onto the belt, the brushes didn't wait. They started spinning before the sensors even hit. The top brush slammed down so hard the tunnel shook. Soap geysered out like veins opening. It covered the windows, then pulled itself into shapes. Faces. Dozens of them. They pressed against the glass, eyes closed, mouths moving. One set of lips mouthed my name. I stumbled backward. "Leo, you see that?" Leo was already halfway to the control panel. He didn't answer, just slammed the kill switch. But the brushes didn't stop. They spun faster, hissing, smearing the faces until they looked like stretched shadows clawing to escape. And then the rear-view mirror in the van tilted by itself. I swear to God. It aimed straight at me. "Trey," a voice gurgled from everywhere at once. "Step closer." I froze. My own reflection stared back, except it wasn't right. Its grin was too wide, ear to ear, soap dripping like saliva. Behind it, the mirror room again, faces slapping against their glass cages, begging me to trade places. The top brush screeched and snapped one of its belts. The tunnel lights stuttered like strobes. For half a second, I saw something climbing out of the mirror in the van. A wet arm, gray and slick, reaching. That's when a shadow cut across the floor. Tall, straight, with bristles for hair. I turned and there it was. The new mop, plastic still clinging to its head, leaning in the corner. Moptimus Prime. Don't ask me how, but it wasn't just standing. It was angling forward, like a soldier bracing for a fight. The van's mirror cracked with a sharp pop. Soap sprayed like blood. The arm withdrew and the van suddenly lurched forward as if shoved. It shot out of the tunnel, dripping, coughing smoke. Then it was gone, swallowed by the night. The brushes slowed. The tunnel sighed like it had been cheated of a meal. Leo stood by the panel, face white as wax. That wasn't supposed to happen. Val came in seconds later, looking at the bent belt and cracked brush housing. "Which one of you idiots touched the mirror?" she barked. "Not me," I said, too fast. Her eyes narrowed. "Then it's escalating." "Damn it," she rubbed her temples. "We'll need to lock down the tunnel tomorrow." Reinforce the rules, I wanted to ask. Reinforce how? But I kept quiet. Because when I glanced at the supply rack, I swear Moptimus had shifted back to its usual spot, plastic wrap torn loose like it had been used. And for the first time, I wasn't sure if the rule about the mirror was enough. By night 4, the car wash felt less like a job and more like babysitting a hungry animal. The tunnel wasn't just a machine anymore. It breathed. The fans didn't sound like dryers. They sounded like lungs. The conveyor didn't hum. It purred. And the brushes didn't just spin. They waited. I kept telling myself I was imagining it. Sleep deprivation, caffeine jitters, nerves. But then Val came in with a clipboard and a fire in her eyes. "Tonight, no mistakes," she said. "Not one glance, not one crack in the rules." We already had an escalation. "What do you mean escalation?" I asked. She didn't answer. She just tightened her jaw and walked the length of the tunnel, patting the metal ribs like she was checking a fence for weak spots. The night dragged. A couple of late-shift nurses, a delivery van, a handful of normal folks. Every time I guided a car in, my spine locked up like a frozen hose. I counted brush hits to distract myself. Like a giant heartbeat. Then, around 3:12, a teenager in a beat-up Civic rolled up. Loud muffler, duct-taped bumper, pizza boxes stacked in the back seat. He was probably 17, acne glowing under the neon. Kid looked way too tired, way too careless. "Neutral, hands off, foot off," I shouted, and he gave me a lazy thumbs up before rolling onto the belt. As the first spray hit, something went wrong. The brushes started spinning, but instead of hitting the sides, they angled inward, like they were hugging the car too tight. The conveyor screeched, metal grinding against metal. Inside the Civic, the kid's face went pale. He mouthed, "What the hell?" I sprinted toward the control panel. "Kill it!" I yelled to Leo. He slammed the emergency stop. Nothing. The brushes spun faster, whipping suds into the air like spittle. The tunnel lights pulsed blood red. The Civic rocked left and right, doors bowing inward like something inside wanted out. The rear view tilted down. 100 faces filled it, mashed together like pressed flowers. They were screaming without sound, their mouths opening wider than human jaws. The kid finally noticed. He looked straight into the mirror. "No!" I shouted, but it was too late. His head jerked back like someone yanked him by the hair. His eyes rolled white, mouth dropping open. The glass fogged and shapes leaned close from the inside. One of them wore his face. Val stormed in with a crowbar. She didn't hesitate. She smashed the circuit box on the wall. Sparks showered, lights flickered. The belt shuddered to a halt. The brushes slowed like beasts growling in disappointment. The Civic sat there, dripping, its engine dead. The driver slumped forward onto the wheel. Leo cracked the door open. "Kid?" The teenager blinked awake, coughing soap bubbles. For a second I thought we'd saved him. But when he looked up, I knew. His eyes were mirrors. Perfect silvered glass. No pupils, no irises. Just reflections. He staggered out, looked at me, and grinned. "Neutral," he whispered in my own voice. Then he walked right past us, out into the night, leaving wet footprints that didn't fade. Val dropped the crowbar. Her hands shook. "Damn it. That's a breach." "A breach of what?" I demanded. She stared at the tunnel, jaw tight. "The barrier. The mirror world. Once it gets out, it doesn't go back easy." I wanted to argue, to say it sounded insane, but those footprints outside were glowing faintly in the dark, like fresh soap lit from within. And in the puddle by my boots, my reflection didn't blink when I did. Behind me, I heard a squeak. I turned. Moptimus Prime had toppled forward from the supply rack, bristles pointing like a spear. Leo whispered, "I think it wants a fight." By the time dawn was a rumor behind the highway, I was ready to walk out. Forget rent, forget bills. Let the landlord fight the mirror people. But Val wouldn't let me leave. "You think if you quit, you're safe?" she said, pacing the break room like a general about to lose a war. "You looked. They know you now. They'll follow you home. Best shot you've got is staying here, where the rules at least slow them down." That didn't make me feel better. Leo sat hunched on a stool, chewing a fingernail down to blood. "The kid's gone, right?" "That means they got an anchor." Val glared. "Shut it." "Anchor?" I asked. Leo winced. "Sometimes. They hitch a ride. A body, a name, a way out." The fluorescent light buzzed overhead. For a second, it flickered off, and when it came back, all three of our reflections in the break room window were a half-second late catching up. My gut dropped. A horn honked outside. We bolted. A car was already idling in the prep bay, though no headlights had approached. It was an old station wagon, the kind with fake wood paneling and a cracked hood ornament. Rust ate its wheel wells, and there, in the driver's seat, sat the kid from the Civic. Except his mirrored eyes, glowed in the neon light. He didn't blink. He didn't smile. He just rolled onto the belt like he'd done this forever. The brushes started before Leo could even shout. Soap foamed in torrents, spattering the floor like blood. The tunnel thumped as though something inside it was climbing, shifting, stretching. The kid lifted his hand in a wave. Not at Val, not at Leo, at me. The rear view tilted again, and this time I didn't just see the mirror room. I saw something stepping through. It crawled on all fours, its limbs too long, elbows bending the wrong way. Its skin was slick, gray, and stretched so thin it looked ready to tear. No eyes, just hollows filled with dripping glass. Each time it moved, it left a smear of reflection behind, like puddles of polished chrome. Val swung the crowbar at the control panel again, but the power didn't cut. The brushes screamed like chainsaws. The dryer fans bellowed hot air that smelled like burned hair. The thing reached the edge of the glass. One arm slid free, claws clattering against the windshield, then a shoulder, then half its torso. That's when something thudded across the floor. Moptimus Prime. The mop had fallen forward again, handle pointed like a lance. I swear the damn thing moved on its own, skidding across the wet concrete until it lay at my feet. Val yelled, "Trey!" And I knew. Either I picked up the mop, or I became a chew toy for whatever was crawling through that mirror. So I grabbed it. The handle fit my hand like it had been waiting. The bristles dripped foam like venom. I planted my feet, heart beating louder than the dryer fans, and when the creature lunged halfway out of the mirror, I swung. The mop's bristles smacked it dead in the face. A blast of soap and water hissed like acid, and the thing shrieked without sound, thrashing back into the glass. The rear view cracked, spider webbing out from the impact. The kid's mirrored eyes went wide, then shattered like light bulbs. He slumped forward, limp, smoke curling out of his mouth. The brushes screeched to a stop. The tunnel went dead silent. I stood there panting, mop dripping in my hands, heart screaming at me to drop it and run. But I didn't. Because for the first time I realized the mop wasn't just a mop. Moptimus Prime was a weapon. Val stared at me, jaw slack. You might actually survive this." I wasn't sure if that was a promise or a threat. The tunnel didn't stay quiet for long. Quiet at Suds and Shine isn't peace. It's the kind of silence you hear before the storm tears the roof off. The broken rearview mirror in the wagon sizzled. Cracks spread, glowing faintly like veins full of liquid silver. Every reflective surface in the tunnel, wet floors, dripping windows, even the chrome on bumpers, started to twitch like they were skin about to split. Val barked, "Containment breach," and sprinted for the breaker box. Leo dove under the control panel, like that would help. And me? I stood in the middle of it, gripping Moptimus Prime like it was Excalibur wrapped in janitor chic. The first mirror shattered. A flood of hands spilled out, clawing wetly across the concrete. Then another and another. Dozens of things dragged themselves free, slick gray bodies, eyeless heads, mouths full of teeth that looked like shards of glass. Each one dripped reflections instead of blood. They came fast. The brushes spun to life without power, flailing wildly, slapping the creatures back but not slowing them for long. The dryers roared like jet engines, gusts of hot wind knocking a few monsters sideways. But the mirror things adapted quick, skittering low, gnawing at the rails. One lunged straight at me. I swung Moptimus, bristles smacking it across its dripping skull. Soap sprayed like holy water, sizzling against its skin. The thing shrieked soundlessly, convulsed, then melted into a puddle of broken reflections. Another came from the side. I jabbed the mop forward like a spear. The handle drove straight through its chest. It burst like a balloon, shards scattering across the floor before fading to steam. Val smashed the breaker box open with her crowbar. Sparks rained. "It's not cutting them off," she shouted. "They're already here," Leo yelled from his hiding spot. The horde circled. More faces pressed from inside the puddles, pushing through like wet paper. I was sweating so bad my shirt clung like plastic wrap. My arms shook, but I gripped the mop tighter. Then I heard it, the whisper again. Trey. This time it didn't come from one mirror. It came from all of them, and every reflection showed me doing the same thing, tilting my head, leaning forward, about to stare into the glass. The rule: do not look in the rear view mirror. I understood then. The rule wasn't about safety. It was about survival odds. Looking gave them permission. But now, with dozens crawling out, permission didn't matter. They were already here. Unless... "Leo!" I shouted. "The dryer cannons, can we overcharge them?" He blinked. "Like, blow them out?" "Yes, fry the tunnel." Val caught on. "It'll collapse the whole line." "Better than letting them out onto the highway." Leo scrambled, flipping switches like a gambler down to his last chip. The dryers started to howl, louder and louder, until the floor rattled and the bolts screamed in their sockets. The mirror things hesitated. Some covered their hollow faces, glass dripping faster. "Now!" I yelled. The cannons exploded with a roar. Superheated air blasted through the tunnel like a hurricane in a furnace. The reflections shattered, one after another, as if a hammer was smashing them all at once. The mirror creatures howled silently, bodies splitting and boiling away into nothing. I swung Moptimus like a madman, bristles glowing in the storm, knocking down any that tried to cling to me. Each hit dissolved another into puddles that couldn't reform. When it was over, the tunnel was wrecked, rails twisted, brushes shredded, foam dripping like entrails. The smell of burned metal and scorched soap stung my throat. But it was empty. Silent. Val leaned on her crowbar, coughing. Leo crawled out from under the panel, face black with soot. I dropped the mop. My arms were jelly. My heart was louder than the dryers had ever been. Val finally spoke. "You broke the rule, Trey." I nodded, too tired to lie. "But you also bent it in the only way that worked." She eyed the mop, still steaming faintly on the floor. "Maybe that's the new rule. If you have to look, make damn sure you're holding something that bites back." Leo chuckled weakly. "Moptimus Prime, savior of Suds and Shine." I laughed, but it came out ragged. The puddle at my feet quivered one last time, then stilled. For now. Because here's the truth. You can kill the reflections, smash the mirrors, burn the tunnel down, but the rule never dies. The next time I wash a car, I'll feel it again. The itch in my neck, the whisper in my ear. And I'll know. All it takes is one look.